There was no one else in the room when I woke up the next morning, naked under my sheets. Wait, why was I under sheets? When had I conjured up a bed? I didn't remember doing that. Oh, right. Yesterday evening, after a mender complained the floor was too cold. Yeah, that was when. Yep. It was interesting, though. Anything Pete builds is usually solidly constructed and lasts for a good long while, and yet the bed's box spring appeared to have been broken in several different spots. There were also claw marks all over the mattress. Wow. How had that happened? Oh, right. I knew how it happened. I definitely knew. Well, god dang it, I said glumly. I can't believe you did that, Pete said quietly. I can't believe I did that either, I said. I feel awkward right now, Sir Matthew. I feel very awkward. Couldn't you have at least taken me off first? Hey, you told me never to take you off no matter what, remember? Well, I wasn't expecting to conduct an involuntary inspection of anyone's anatomy either, you randy pig. Would you please wash your hands now? He angrily demanded. Yeah, anything for an Eskimo brother, I muttered, as I gingerly crawled out of the bed. Don't ever call me that, P said, with a flash of intense red light. I guess he was in a bad mood as well. Join the club, bard. I was limping pretty badly on my way to the shower. I was worn out. I was really worn out. But getting chewed out by my forging wasn't anywhere near as bad as the number my guilty conscience had just put me through. I'd had a dream, and it shook me. It shook me very badly. I was standing in the afterlife. It felt like I was in heaven or something equivalent to it. A place of peace and profound joy, where the burdens of life could finally be put down and all that remained were the promised rewards for those who remained faithful to their beliefs. It was incredible. After wandering the streets of paradise for a bit, I discovered an amazing old-timey saloon, one like the cowboys of yore must have enjoyed in the age of the Wild West. When I passed through its swinging doors, I discovered my grandpa was having drinks with Alex Trebek himself. My late Grandpa Joe loved watching Jeopardy with the family, every evening after he came home from work. He also loved making us play against him and kept a running tally to see who the weekly family champion was, which was generally pointless since he effortlessly whooped any of us who went against him. Good lord, he'd been a bad winner too. He gloated so badly whenever we lost that it kept us kids fired up and determined to one day beat that old coot. Trying to win those games was the main reason I had so much knowledge of pointless trivia. Not that it ever did me any good. The only one of us who ever won against Grandpa was Kiefer. My brother might have been an evil bastard, but he'd been a clever one. I'll give him that. Now there I stood in the world beyond, seeing these two cool old guys hanging out at the table playing cards, while laughing and shooting the breeze, as they discussed days gone by. Grandpa had brought the first round, and now it was his newfound drinking buddy's turn to lay down some coin. What'll you have next, Joe? Mr. Trebek asked him. Well, Alex, Grandpa said in that rumbling, deep-chested voice of his that I'll never forget and deeply missed. I believe I'll take disappointing grandsons who steal their friend's girl for 200, he said, before turning around to look me square in the eye as he spat on the dusty floor. I didn't dare meet his stern gaze. There was silence between us for a good long while until he broke it first. I thought you was better than your brother, cowboy, he said. Seems I might have been mistaken. It wasn't like that, sir. I promise it wasn't. I just got caught up in the moment was all, I said, with my eyes downcast. I'm sorry, kid, but the category was something a shithill says when he gets caught being a shithill, and you didn't phrase your whining in the form of a question, Alex Trebek said mockingly. Huh. Alex Trebek was kind of a smartass, wasn't he? I got this, Alex, thank you, Grandpa said, before turning back to me and roaring. You was caught up in a moment, you say? Horseshit, boy! It was more like you was practicing yourself some tag team yoga. Grandpa, I said it wasn't like that. You had to be there. That girl weren't no firecracker. She was as sick of dynamite and she blew me away, I pleaded. Spare me the salacious details, you young idiot. You think you're the only fella ever been tempted into wrongdoing? How dare you mock all the good men throughout history you say faithful to their friendships? What are you, boy? Your mama raised a man, didn't she? Not some good-for-nothing peckerwood who gets led around by his libido by some seductive serpentine succubus? She is actually a dragon, sir, I said remorsefully. I know she's a dragon boy, Grandpa fumed. I was just using poetic license. I was being alliterative. What did I tell you about correcting your elders, huh? He said, before knocking me to the floor with his legendary right hand. It hurt just as much as I remembered, too. Okay, I'll make it up to Borman. I'll earn his forgiveness, I stammered. Earn it? Forgiveness ain't earned, you fool, it's given. And if you're a real man, you'll tell your friend to his face what you've done and beg his pardon, with the world as your witness. And whatever comes of it, you'll accept the consequences of your deeds. If you're really my kin, then that's what I expect of you. Yes, sir, I said miserably. Good. If you ever misbehave like that ever again, I swear I'll make you cup your switch. Watch and see if I don't, Matthew Sky. And you tell that Pete. I didn't leave you in his care for him to let you run wild like some English libertine. I got a right hand for him too if he keeps messing up. Yes, sir, I said again. You tell him. I will. I promise I will, I swore to him. Good. See that you do. Now get out of here, boy. This saloon is for real men. If you want to drink in my company, you need to walk upright with righteous pride. Don't come back until you can. Having said his piece, Grandpa turned back to Mr. Trebek and spoke to me no more. I walked out of that saloon with slumped shoulders, my heart now weighed down with shame and embarrassment. I don't think I'd ever before let down my grandpa as badly as I had this time, and it stung. It stung real bad. Damn, Grandpa. Even in my subconscious delusions, you still know how to make it hurt. Wait, what had he said about Pete? It said something, right? I don't know. Couldn't remember what if he had. Dreams can be frustrating like that. Joe Sky poured himself another shot of tequila and swallowed it slowly, sighing in pleasure as it went burning down his throat. I'll say this for the afterlife, Alex, he said with a grin. The drinks go down damn smooth, and they can't kill your liver twice, isn't that right? You're damn skippy for 300, Joe, the late host of Jeopardy replied with a knowing smirk and a drink of his own. I have to say, though, I'm surprised by how hard you came down on your grandson. When I nailed Raquel Welch, I told everyone in my family and called random numbers from the phone booth just to brag to strangers. That kid was with an actual dragon girl, and she came to him. We didn't have action like that in Canada. True, but at least you had Rachel McAdams, Joe said with a whistle. You're goddamn right we did, Trebek said smugly. Anywho, I was just telling that boy what he wanted to hear. He's trying to follow a code, and he needed someone to give him permission to do what he's about to do. The Lord only knows where he got that ethical streak from. It sure wasn't from me. When I wore that ring, I rutted my way through 120 planets in an antimatter universe. If my packer was named after a constellation, it'd be... What is the Big Dipper for 1,000? Trebek cut in. You're a rascal, Alex Trebek. You're a shameless rascal, Joe roared with delight, while slapping the tabletop. Then he and Trebek clinked their drinks in mutual respect, before leaning back in their seats to enjoy the atmosphere, in a comfortable mutual silence. Do you ever miss it? Trebek asked him a short while later. Being out there in the stars, doing whatever it is your order does? Hell no, Joe said without hesitation. Even the most brilliant of jewels will lose their luster with the passage of time. And I did that job for 5 centuries, Alex. Work like that takes everything from you. I never even got to meet my own children. Had to bunk with my distant descendants and lie about who I was, like some silly vampire. Those are real? Fangs and all? Yes, but they're very disappointing. Very superficial. I'm just lucky my family took to me. They're all good kids. Well, all of them except that little bastard Keither. He had too much of his daddy in him. Can a man ever have too much of his father in him? Trebek asked curiously. You know you're setting yourself up for a bad joke with a question like that, Trebek. Seriously, though. Joe leaned back quietly for a bit before answering. Well, Alex, if you ever saw that thing come dripping out of the hollow door of the void, killing away all the light it could, you'd know the answer to that question. If your mind was still working, that is. Lucky for us, he's still trapped in that supermassive black hole I knocked his ugly ass into. Can't eat no souls when you're chained by a well of endless gravity. Joe took another sip of his drink, then said with a sigh, I probably should have done the same with Kiefer, but he was still my blood. Unworthy of it, though he was. I wanted to believe that kid had a chance. You always want to believe that children can break a bad cycle. Not in this case. Ask his victims, not me, Joe said sadly. You sound like you had a hard life, friend. Trebek said sympathetically. Hard to the most, but the joy was there too. I like to grouse about it, but my duties weren't all bad. We did some real good out there, we really did. I can hardly describe the sweetness of the triumphs I've known. The satisfaction I felt as the wicked fell by my hand, no matter how powerful they believed themselves to be. Winning a hard fight is a thing to be savoured, Trebek nodded knowingly. It is indeed, my friend. More than that, it is glorious, agreed Lord Jonas Skyhold, Knight Trinium Magnus, and Grand Champion of the Order of Forge Knights, currently deceased. Joe was the one person in all of reality who stood closest to becoming a new Knight Omnia. Perhaps he was better known throughout the cosmos by his dreaded nickname, the Pinnacle. The man who stood at the peak of power, even when he was dead. He was a saviour of worlds, but also one who ended them. Hey, listen, Alex, Joe said warily. Don't tell anyone I said that. They'll pull me out of my grave and put me back to work. They'd do that? They've done it before. Actually, I'm surprised they ain't done it again already. A sudden wondrous light surrounded Joe and caused him to rise from his seat and slowly float into the air. Before him, a glowing gateway opened, as a voice charged with absolute authority thundered throughout the room. Grand Champion, your great work is not yet complete. Rejoin the realm of the living, O beloved hero. The Order calls for your aid once more. Well, god dang it, Joe said glumly.